Hello friends, welcome again. Friends, today we are going to discuss novel as found in English literature. We are going to discuss how novel originated in English. We'll discuss different definitions of novel, different characteristics or features of novel and types of novel. But before we move on, I request all you students to please subscribe to this channel so that whenever I upload a new video on this channel, you get the notification. So friends, now let's begin. The word novel actually means something new. The term novel was not used until 18th century. Why? Because novel as a literary form in English literature developed during the 18th century. The term novel actually is derived from the word novella, 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 which is an Italian word. In Italian literature, if I talk about the Middle Ages, if I talk about the 14th century, during those times, Boccaccio was an Italian writer who wrote Decameron, which was a collection of stories, right? So, and those stories in those times during the 14th century in Italian literature were known as novellas. And in those times, it meant stories which were realistic and which expressed the human life, human nature. So, the novel, the word comes from the Italian novellas which were written by Boccaccio during the 14th century. Now, friends, let's now start the discussion of the definition of novel in English literature. The definition, as you can see on the screen, is that novel is a fictitious prose narrative. Now, here mark these words: fictitious. Fictitious means imaginary. Fictitious means something which is imaginative, okay, which is not real, which is full of imagination. The second word is prose narrative. You mark these words to understand the whole definition of novel. Novel is an imaginative prose narrative. Narrative means it has a narrative method. The author tries to narrate the story in prose medium, not in poetic medium. Okay? Novel, I repeat, novel is a fictitious, that means imaginative, prose narrative of considerable length. Considerable means too much length. Novel is always lengthy as far as the size is concerned. It is not like a poetry. Poetry, a poem or lyric is written in 10, 15, 20, 30 lines. Okay, but novel is prose literature. Okay, stories are narrated by the author. It is full of imagination and it is a long story, considerable length, in which realistic characters and realistic events are presented in a complex plot. So, in novel, realistic lifelike characters and events are presented. Literature, we know, is the reflection of life. Okay, so the authors of novel, they reflect, they present the lifelike characters and even events in their novels with a complex plot. So, friends, from this definition, we understand these 5-6 things. Number one, it is prose literature. Number two, it is full of imagination. Number 3, it is written in narrative style. Number 4, it has lifelike, lively characters and events. That means it has the touch of realism. And number 5, it has complex plot. Okay, so before we discuss the important features and types of novel, first of all, let's see how novel originated in English literature. You know, the seeds of these novels, the seeds or the roots of the novel are found way back during the 16th and 17th century. During the Elizabethan age, there were some university wits like John Lilly, Thomas Lodge, Robert Greene, and all such writers. They started writing prose romances. No doubt, they were not the novels, they were writing prose romances. Say, for example, John Lilly wrote Ifuse in 1578. Robert Greene wrote Pendasto, published in 1588. Thomas Lodge wrote Rosalind, published in 1590. And Sir Philip Sidney wrote Arcadia in 1590. All these 16th century works, which are prose works of English literature, you can say they were the seeds of novel. Later on, if you come to the 17th century, John Bunyan emerges out as an important prose writer, and he published Pilgrim's Progress in 1678, which won the hearts of the people in England. Later, during the 18th century, Daniel Defoe, he wrote Robinson Crusoe and Moll Flanders. Okay, these two writers, apart from these two, there is Aphra Behn. So John Bunyan, Aphra Behn, Daniel Defoe, they were, you can say the roots of the seeds of novel. But novel in the truest form, in the real sense of the word, comes in the hands of Samuel Richardson during the 18th century. Richardson has written 3 novels all through his lifetime. The first novel by Richardson, Pamela, published in 1740 or 1741, is considered as the first novel of English literature. Okay, how novel? What were the reasons behind the development of novel during the 18th century? Novel, which was also known as the pocket theatre, it rose to its height because drama and poetry declined during the 18th century. Friends, in one of my previous videos, when I was discussing Samuel Richardson's contribution and Joseph Addison's contribution to English literature, I discussed the idea that 18th century is the period of prose literature. 18th century is the period of realism, during which drama and poetry declined. People were living a hectic life because of industrialization. Okay, there was a clash, there was a conflict between the rich and the poor, and that's why the poor people, the lower and the middle class people, did not want to read the literature which talks about the life and problems of the aristocratic people. 16th century and 17th century literature mainly presents the life of the rich people, aristocratic people. So during the 18th century, drama and poetry declined. Why? Because most of the writers, they presented the life of the rich people. Okay. Another important reason why novels developed during the 18th century is that because of the development of periodical essay. Periodical essays in the hands of Richard Still and Joseph Edison gave birth to the novels in 1941. So in 1741 by Samuel Richardson. Okay, and that's why 18th century is considered as the literature of prose. Let's now talk about important features of novel, important characteristics of novel. Plot is the most important characteristic. Though in Samuel Richardson's novels you find that he does not focus much on plot construction, but plot is an important element of all novels in English literature. There are three kinds of plot: simple plot, complex plot, and episodic plot. But complex plot is considered as the best kind of plot in literature. Characterization and setting. These are the two more important features. Narrative method. There are different methods of narration, methods of expression of presentation in novel. Number one, later writing. Narration through later writing. First person narration, in which the writer himself is a character. He himself tells the story. Third person narration, in which the character, who is a third person, he tells the story, or stream of consciousness. These are different methods or narrative styles found in English novels. And the last important feature is philosophy of life. Novel is a medium through which the author tries to express his view of life, his philosophy of life, how he understands life, how he looks at life or human nature is presented through novels. So, philosophy of life is also an important feature of novels in English literature. Friends, now let's talk about different types of novels as found in English literature: epistolary, picaresque, experimental, sentimental, Gothic, historical, psychological, and science novels. These are different 8 types of novels as we see as the students of literature. We are just going to have some cursory look at all these different types of novel. Epistolary novel. Friends, Pamela, the first novel written by Richardson, the first novel of English literature, is an epistolary novel. In fact, Richardson's all three novels are epistolary novels. Epistolary novels are generally narrated through letters by the characters. In the novel, the characters they write letters to one another, and this is how the story is developed, and that is called an epistolary novel. Picaresque novel, the second kind of novel, mostly written by Daniel Defoe, Robinson Crusoe, and Moll Flanders. These are two picaresque novels. These novels have loose plot construction. They are episodic. The events are episodic. They do not have proper link among themselves. Okay. Autobiographical expression of the rascal's adventures are generally presented in such novels. The third type of novel is an experimental novel. Okay, here the third person narration is done. Digressions are very important in the plot of such novels. Stream of consciousness technique is adopted. Postmodernist technique like graphs are presented in the novel, and Lawrence Sterne is considered as the father of experimental novel. He has written one experimental novel, Tristram Shandy. Another important type of novel is sentimental novels. These novels mainly focus on the sentiments of the characters. They focus on the emotions rather than the reason. So, intelligence is missing here. Emotions play a very important role in the plot, in the story of the novels. Oliver Goldsmith has written Vicar of Wakefield. This is an example of a sentimental novel. Gothic novels are mostly full of magic, mystery, and horror, and the setting is always medieval setting. Okay, Gothic novels mainly the characters are from the medieval times during the Middle Ages, 12th, 13th, or 14th century. Horace Walpole has written Castle of Otranto, published in 1764, which is a nice example of Gothic novels. Historical novels are mainly based on the stories, real stories of the past ages. Okay, mostly in such novels, some conflict between two nations, conflict between two cultures are presented. Walter Scott is considered as the father of historical novels. He has written these two historical novels, Waverley novels, published from 1814 to 19, and Ivanhoe. Okay, another important type of novel is psychological novel. Psychological novel is also known as stream of consciousness novels and also known as a modern novel, which came into existence at the end of 19th century. Here, thoughts are presented as they actually occur in human mind. And in human mind, the thoughts have no logic. The thoughts are, they do not take place, the thoughts do not occur in our mind in a proper manner. So that's why in such novels there is no logic, there is no story, and there is no plot construction. And too many flashbacks are presented here. Virginia Woolf is considered as an exponent of such stream of consciousness novels. To the Lighthouse is an example of such novel. And the last type of novel is science fiction, which became very popular towards the end of 19th century and in the beginning of 20th century. Friends, 20th century was the period of science and technology. So, science and technology also influenced English literature. Such type of novel, science fiction, they deal with imaginative or some futuristic events. They are based on science and technology. Here you find space, aliens, time travel, war among the planets. Okay, such are the important events on which the story is built by the authors. H.G. Wells and Jules Verne, they are considered as the exponents of writing science fiction. If you want an example, Jules Verne has written Paris in the 20th century. The Star Wars novels, the Star Wars films that you must have watched on the theater in the theaters, they are also the examples of science fiction. So friends, here I finished this discussion on the origin, development, features and types of novel. Friends, I hope you like this video. Please share this video among your friends. Thank you very much.